and welcome. My name is Sue and I'm a UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and today I'm going to be using the hand-penned Petals Stamp Set, and I'm going to be showing you 4 different techniques to use with this stamp set. One is how I believe it was originally intended, using some inks, but the other 3 methods are going to use the Stampin' Right marker pens, and I absolutely love these pens. I think that they are a very underused product, and I want to show you just how versatile they are, especially if, like me, and you love having loads of different colours to choose from. Maybe you're a beginner, you're just starting out in your papercraft and stamping hobby, and you want all of the colours of inks, but that's just not possible straight away. You need to do it gradually. Well, getting hold of some of these Stampin' Right markers is an absolutely great way to be able to get lots of colours quickly, and I'm going to show you how you can use them with your stamp set. These pens have a fine nib, 0.5mm pen that you can just do handwriting with. If you've got nice handwriting, you can write your sentiments with it. And then it also has a brush nib, and that's the nib that we're going to be using today. So what I have done is I've taken this main flower stamp and I have stamped it onto some basic white cardstock. I've stamped it 4 times to use for the 4 techniques that we're going to use today, and I've just done it with some Memento Tuxedo black ink. This is kind of a basic that you need in your set. All the links to all the products will be on the blog post that will go up at the same time as this video. So one of the features of this stamp set is that you get your outline, but then you get these stamps to fill in all of the bits. So we're going to do that first using some stamps. So I'm going to use Pale Papaya, which is one of our new in colours for this year. I'm going to use Bumblebee, which was one of the 2020-2022 in colours, and then I'm going to use another one of this year's in colours, Soft Succulent, for the leaves. So let's get started. So I've got our card. The first one that I'm going to pull out is the infill for this largest flower. I'm just going to pop it onto a stamp block. I'm going to load it up with some Bumblebee ink. A nice even coverage all over. And then this flower, it doesn't line up perfectly. It's not meant to, but just line it up the best you can and press down. And there we have the beautiful image. Just get my chamois out of its box to clean my stamp off. Okay, so next we're going to move on to the next size down flower. Pop that on my block, and this one I'm going to do with Pale Papaya. And again, I'm just going to work out which way around that it goes and pop it on. Okay. Move down to the next size flower, and I'm going to do that again in Pale Papaya. And stamp it on. And I'm going to do, I'm going to do those in Bumblebee. So just cleaning off my stamp. Then the small flowers are actually on the same stamp. So I'm going to go back to my bumblebee. Load them up with ink. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these two as a first generation stamp, and then I'm going to come into these two with a second generation stamp, and there we are, we've got some nice variation in our colour. Okay, then the leaves, we've got two stamps for the leaves. We've got the larger leaf and the smaller leaves. So I'm going to swap over to my soft succulent. Pick up my ink, lay it down, and I'm going to do a first generation and a second generation stamp there, and then the others are all from the smaller set. So just clean off my stamp, pick up the small stamp, ink that up, and again I'm going to do a first generation stamp and a second generation, come back for some more ink, do this one here, and then I'm going to do a first generation stamp and a second generation stamp. So there we have it. There's our first hand petal card stamped in the way that I think it was intended, using 3 different colour stamps, although we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we've got about 5 different colours on there. I could have got 6. I could have done 6 colours by stamping off one of my pale papaya flowers there. So that's the first technique. Now we're going to move on to the Stamp Right markers. So I'm going to bring my largest flower back in, pop it onto my block. Now this time, instead of applying ink from the ink pad, I'm going to apply ink directly from the right marker. So I'm going to come in again with my bumblebee pen, and all I'm going to do is, using the side of the brush nib, I'm just going to colour over my stamp just gently, and then I can come in, line up my stamp and push it on. Okay, so let's just bring that other one back in to compare, so you don't get quite as full an image, but it still looks really nice. That's wrong cloth. Just clear that one off, and let's come in with the next size down. Bring our next flower in, and let's stick with the same colours. So I'm going to come in now with my pale papaya, and again using the side of the brush nib, I'm just going to lightly apply that all over my stamp. Line it up, push it down, and there we are. Okay, I'm going to come in with the next size down flower. Again, add my pale papaya using the side of the brush, line it up. Let's see which way around is it. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go for that way. Okay, and you can see how nicely those colours are coming on. Now it's not as easy to do a second generation stamp with the markers, so I'm going to come in, oops, forgotten to change my stamp. I'm going to come in with those two little small ones at the right end. Go to colour over a stamp. I'm going to and let's give it a try. Let's see if we get any colour from a second generation. Oh, we have got a very pale, I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but it is definitely coloured in real life. So, finished with that, move on to our leaves. So I'm going to use the same colour. I'm going to use Soft Succulent. I'm going to colour in my leaf. And I'm going to come in and stamp these two large leaves. There's one. And the second one. Okay, clean that one off and bring in the small leaf. Line that one in. Line that one up. Let's try a second generation on this one. Yeah, again, it's very pale, but it is there. There is some colour there. Let's go for this one at the top. And this one. And then our last leaf. And we're done. Okay, so we've got our first two. So this one was done using ink pads and this one was done using the white markers, and there really isn't a huge amount of difference. The larger flower possibly needed to have put a little bit more ink on there, but I think that they both look absolutely stunning. So let's move on and have a look at another way that we can use our Stamp Right markers. Okay, so for our next technique, we're going to use, I'm going to use the same colours, and I'm going to bring in, this is just from, it's a piece of glass, I've put some tape around the outside so there's no sharp edges, and it's just from an old photo frame that broke. So I'm just going, but the glass was fine, and that's what I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is get some colour onto my piece of glass, and then using a water painter pen, or you could just use a regular paintbrush and some water, I'm going to just squeeze it to bring some water out onto my plate so that my brush nib is nice and wet, and then I'm just going to rub my brush into the ink that I laid down, and then I can paint it on. So I'm effectively watercolouring with my Stamp Right pen. Now this works because they are a water-based pen. This wouldn't work with something like a Sharpie marker because they're permanent pens, but any water-based pen this would work with. I really like the Stamp Right markers because I can then coordinate them with other items in the range. So I'm just building up some colour. I want some light and dark. I want it to look like a watercolour painting. I can come back in and add some more darker areas to the tops of the petals. And then if I want to, I can add some more where those centre bits are. Okay, now while I've still got some, not very much left on there, but I've still got some, so I'm going to come in and do these small flowers here. The less ink I've got left on my glass plate, the lighter my petals will become. Okay, so now I'm just going to put down some pale papaya. I'm not going to bother cleaning my brush, I'm just going to pick up some of that and start laying it down into this flower. So I'm not squeezing this aqua brush, I'm just using the water that's just on the brush. Just gently coming in and adding some of the colour on. Okay, so I'm going to do this one as well. Okay, if I want some more colour on here, I can come in as it's drying and just add some more. I'm just going to add some more bumblebee to my plate. I'm going to come back in, and because I've just added some more ink, I can get these ones to go a little bit darker, especially if I keep adding more colour to my brush. There. So now I'm going to add some soft succulent. Pick up some of the colour and start painting it onto the leaves. You see where I had some of the pale papaya still on my brush, it's given that leaf a bit of a yellowy tone. Okay, now if I want to make any of my leaves darker, I can just come back in by picking up some more ink and just applying it where I want the leaf to be darker. If I want a bit more of that yellowy in, I can just pick up and mix what's left there in with my green, and then I can get that tone which I can mix in as well, just to give a bit of colour variety. I'll pick up a bit of the bumblebee there on that one and add that in. So there is our next card. All I need to do is get my rag, wipe the ink off, and my glass mat is clean and ready to go again next time. So that's our third version, and now for the fourth. Okay, so for our fourth technique, I'm going to use my glass plate again, and this time I'm going to bring in this template. Now this template is free to download on my website, www.sosusiedesigns.com, and all I've done is printed it off and laminated it, and I'm just going to place it underneath my piece of glass. Now my piece of card is a quarter of a piece of A4, so it's there or thereabouts on 4 by 6 inches. So I know that when I'm colouring, I only want to get colour within the pink line. I also know that most of my image is towards the top of my piece of card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down some colour, and I'm going to look at my stamped image to get a rough idea of whereabouts certain elements are. I'm not worrying about it being exact, but I just want it roughly in this kind of area. I'm going to put some that round there and that round there. I'm going to come in with my soft succulent and put it in roughly the places where my leaves are. Okay, I've got a bit of a gap there. I'm just going to come back in with Bumblebee and just go across a bit further with Bumblebee. Okay, then I'm just going to get my bottle of water, my spray bottle. I'm going to move this out of the way to make sure I don't spray it, and I'm going to spray over. I'm going to spray quite a lot, and you can see that the colours are starting to kind of go out. I can tip it a little bit if I want to, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, oh that's one where I went wrong on the back, and to place that over, give it a bit of a press and lift it up. Okay, and then I'm just going to get my cloth, wipe that down so I can move it out of the way. Okay, so it is wet at the moment. The cardstock will curl a little bit. I can see that possibly I kind of made my colours spread out too far, but I really like that. If I wanted to put some more green in, all I need to do is come back in, pop some green down, give it a spray, and then place my card on that green where I want it. So I want some here, so I'm just going to press it in. I want some over here. I'm just going to press that in the green there, and you'll see that I've started to then pick up some of the colour where I missed it. Okay, wipe that off. Move that out of the way. I'm just going to come in with my heat tool just to help dry that off a little bit. think the style of this one looks really nice because of the hand drawn effect of the stamp. That works quite well. Now you will see because the memento is a dye ink, the lines look like they have kind of blurred a little bit. You could use some stays on to keep your image really crisp, but I quite like that blurred image. So let's just bring all 4 back in. So our first one we did with our ink pads. The second one we used the marker pens to colour our stamps. The third one we did a watercolour effect by putting the ink onto the glass and then using a wet paintbrush. And then the last one we've created a kind of a splodge of colour over the top of the stamp. So I hope that's given you some ideas of how you can use these great pens, how you don't have to have all of the different colours of stamps all at once. You can, because you could combine some of these effects. If you had some green stamps but you didn't have the colour flower you wanted, you could stamp the leaves and then use your right marker to colour the flowers in. So you could combine the techniques really easily, or you could combine this with this for some of the elements to give it a different effect. So thank you for joining me. I hope this has given you some inspiration, and I hope that I will see you again soon. Don't forget to hit subscribe to see when I post my next videos, and head over to my blog at www.sewseasy.com, where I will show a full breakdown of what I've done today. Thank you.